Pro Boxing fans here with Teddy Atlas. Teddy, we've just seen Anthony Joshua with an absolute demolition job on Francis Ngannou. Just talk to me about that performance.
Oh, what can you say? You need me to amplify it? I think Joshua spoke for it with the right hand enough where, look, I picked Joshua to win this fight. I thought his experience would be a difference, but from a technical standpoint, from a habit standpoint, physical standpoint, in the fight with Fury, with Ngannou, he showed obviously advancement we wouldn't expect, technically and mentally, where he was calm in there in an uncalm environment. But the thing that I had said on my podcast, and I actually said it here yesterday, was he showed a nice counter left hook in Ngannou early in the fight. He scored a knockdown in the third round against Fury. But after that, he got intoxicated with his left hook. He did. And he started, a lot of people ain't going to understand that, but he started leading with it. But he got away with it because Fury at that point had been dropped. He was controlling the outside with his jab, and he wasn't looking really to nail him with the right hand other than off the jab. But I said on the podcast, and I said yesterday to somebody here, that, you know what? If he picks up where he left off, usually you say that's a good thing because he came from a good performance. It's going to be a bad thing because this guy has the experience, number one, to be able to see that if he's leading with a left hook or any kind of left in front of him, there'll be a window for a right hand. And Joshua has a beautiful straight right hand. And there'll be an opportunity to score with that right hand inside a left that's thrown. Instead of as a counter, where there's no opening, if you lead with them, it's an opening. See, if you wait until after they throw, you make them throw, you make the right hand miss, bang, then you come back with the left hook. No danger. But if you start leading with the left hook before the right hand's out of the way, you might have something like that. Might wind up happening. At the end of the day, the thing that made me pick Joshua, really, I did think that a couple things. Pre-warned, pre-prepared. What do I mean by that? In the fight with Ngannou and Fury, you can say whatever we're human. It's human nature to take things for granted sometimes. I thought Fury was okay physically, but not mentally. I did not think he was prepared mentally for that fight. I mean, what human being on this planet would have necessarily prepared mentally to the point that they would think that a guy in his first pro fight, boxing, would have a chance to compete with the heavyweight champ. I really believe 75% of this, my friend, is mental. And I really believe that Fury was not ready mentally. And he showed great heart, great character, and he wound up salvaging the day. But he was not ready for that kind of performance. Guess what? The news was out. Joshua knew what he was dealing with this time. He was ready mentally for that. So there was he didn't have the advantage that he had the first time of just no information on him, of just where you might take him for granted a little bit. And you can see Joshua was mentally in such a solid place. And I noticed something about Joshua since his last fight. Maybe a little before his last fight, but really since his last fight, I think he found himself. And what do I mean by he's a former two-time champ? What, Teddy, he didn't find himself before? No, I think he was a little lost in certain ways. I just felt that he was more comfortable with himself. I really did. I felt that, and I said this yesterday here on one of the interviews, I just felt that this time he was doing it for him. It wasn't about to satisfy people for the great national hero he was in London, to live up to expectations, to satisfy people. It just looked like he had a quiet comfort about, no, this is about me being comfortable the rest of my life, and some of that's going to be attached to what I do in here for the rest of the journey. And you know what? I got to be in the right place, and he got to the right place. You could see it even coming in the ring. That you know, it wasn't about celebrating, taking for granted. It wasn't about being a huge star, you know, and about all the things that go with being a huge star in your country, the way that he was. No, it was about him being happy with himself and knowing what he was and what was important to him. And that, you can get lost. You can win a heavyweight title twice, gold medal in the Olympics, and you can get lost a little bit of why am I doing this? What is it about for me? You know, is it about the money? Is it about you know, today I feel good, tomorrow, you know, I have to go out and I gotta, you know, do public appearances and keep an image and now all of a sudden I don't have that image, and oh my God, I'm marked by not having that image. And what is my image? Your image is what you think it is, not what other people think it is, not what the tabloids say it is, what you say it is. I think he got to the right place. I think his experience, again, I think there was an element of surprise against Fury. That element of surprise was gone. And I think that the experience of Joshua now was going to show against the inexperience. You know what I said yesterday actually today to the Netflix film? They asked me, you know, they're doing a thing, and they were a little bit more towards Ngannou because there's a story with that they were following. So they asked me for my pick. I said Fury. I'm sorry. I said Joshua. And they said, why? I said, well, as great as Ngannou was, the first fight, he was coloring by the numbers. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, you get a coloring book. Number 1 says red. Number 2 says orange. Number 3 says green. So you see the numbers, you color beautifully. You can't color by the numbers tonight because it's going to be a different atmosphere, a different prepared guy, a different pace, where now he's going to have to react. And I don't know, now his lack of experience might show.
Last one, with this Anthony Joshua that we're seeing now, that, you know, we see a more mature Anthony Joshua. We see him throwing the shots that he needs to throw when he's in range and being that powerful clinical finisher. What happens if he faces a Tyson Fury or a rematch with Alexander Usyk? What happens in them scenarios?
He is in a better place now. You're right. He's gotten back where he found his identity now again. Where before, and that's what I was expressing before, or trying to express, was that he had lost that identity. That he, you know, 1 minute he's Muhammad Ali, the next minute, you know, he's being aggressive. He didn't know who he was. He wasn't solid with an identity. You have to have an identity inside that ring. And he got back to the guy who was set, the guy who threw a hard jab, the guy who controlled range, the guy who was set to punch, the guy who believed that he could be the boss. He's fighting that way in a controlled aggression. And that's the best Joshua there is, and that's what Eddie Hearns talks about. Can't argue with him with that. As far as answering your question, you know what? It would be obviously a different story. It doesn't mean he wouldn't be successful, but against either Tyson Fury or Usyk, who's already beaten him twice, you know, you're talking about guys with the experience, you know, to deal with the things they would have to deal with, obviously. But he's in a better place now. He's in the best place he can be, I think, to be able to be successful, including with Usyk. Where with Usyk, there were times where he didn't really put forward that he was that bigger, stronger puncher in the fight. It was, you know, he didn't really put that forward too much, and a lot of it had to do with Usyk fighting such a brilliant fight. But you could see there was a sort of I don't want to say being tentative, a tentativeness, but where he wasn't sure that he could be that guy. If he fights this way and he gets opportunities against Usyk, you know, obviously it could bode well against him. But look, take nothing away from Usyk, take nothing away from Fury. Both of them have not learned how to lose yet. That's a tough lesson. And hey, Joshua now, he's in a better position maybe to give that lesson.
Teddy, thank you very much. They are sort of trying to clean out the area now. Do appreciate your time. Always good talking to you on the trip. No doubt I'll speak to you again when you're in Riyadh next. And yeah, hopefully you get better. I know you've messed up your MCL and ACL, but we'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much for giving us your time this week.
My pleasure.